Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the English Learning Podcast. I'm Jason, your host, and as always, I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Julia. Hi, Julia.
Hi, Jason. Hello, listeners. We're so excited to have you here. Today's episode is From Silent to Fluent, a must-listen for anyone who struggles to speak English confidently.
Yes, we know that many learners understand English well, but struggle to speak. Maybe you're afraid of making mistakes. Maybe you don't have people to practice with. Or maybe you're just not sure where to start.
That's completely normal. Many learners stay silent for months or even years because they feel nervous or insecure. But today, we're going to help you break that silence and take real steps toward fluency.
Exactly. In the next 26 minutes, we'll talk about why learners hesitate to speak, how to change your mindset, practical ways to start speaking, and how to stay motivated.
By the end of this episode, you'll have the tools and confidence to start speaking English, no matter where you are in your learning journey.
So, get ready, grab a notebook if you need to, and let's dive into the journey from silent to fluent. All right, let's start with the big question. Why do so many English learners stay silent instead of speaking? Julia, what do you think is one of the biggest reasons?
Great question, Jason. One of the main reasons is the fear of making mistakes. Many learners worry that they'll use the wrong words, mispronounce something, or make a grammar mistake, and they think people will laugh at them or judge them.
Yes, that fear is real. But the truth is, making mistakes is part of learning. Think about how children learn to speak their first language. They make mistakes all the time. But nobody laughs at them because mistakes help them improve.
Exactly. But here's the problem. Many English learners try to be perfect before they even start speaking. They want to get the grammar 100% correct before saying a sentence, but waiting for perfection actually slows you down.
That's so true. And I think another big reason learners stay silent is lack of confidence. They compare themselves to native speakers or advanced learners and think, I'll never sound like that.
Yes, but confidence comes from practice. You don't have to speak perfectly to communicate well. If you can express your ideas, even in simple sentences, you're already speaking English.
That's an important mindset shift. But let's talk about another reason learners stay silent overthinking. Some people try to translate every word from their native language into English before speaking.
Yes, and that makes speaking really slow and stressful. If you're always thinking, is this the right word? Is my grammar correct? You'll hesitate, and eventually you won't say anything at all.
Exactly. And that's why it's important to think in English instead of translating. We'll talk more about how to do that later in this episode.
That's right. But before we move on, let's quickly mention one more reason not having enough speaking practice. Some learners simply don't have people to talk to, so they never get a chance to practice.
That's a big challenge, but the good news is you don't need a speaking partner to start speaking. There are many ways to practice by yourself, and we'll share those tips in just a moment.
So, to summarize, learners stay silent because of 1. Fear of mistakes, 2. Lack of confidence, 3. Overthinking and translating, 4. Not enough speaking practice.
But don't worry. If you struggle with these problems, you are not alone, and you can overcome them. Next, we're going to talk about how to change your mindset so you can start speaking with confidence. Now that we know why many learners stay silent, let's talk about something really important: the mindset shift that will help you start speaking. Julia, what do you think is the biggest change learners need to make?
The biggest shift is understanding this simple truth. You don't need to be perfect to start speaking. Speaking is part of learning.
That's such a powerful idea. Many learners think they need to study English for years before they can start speaking. But the truth is, you learn to speak by speaking.
Exactly. Think about how babies learn their first language. They don't study grammar books or memorize vocabulary lists. They just listen and speak, making lots of mistakes along the way. And that's how they become fluent.
That's such a great example. So, instead of waiting until you feel ready to speak, you should start speaking now, even if it's just a little bit.
Yes, and here's another mindset shift. Mistakes are not failures. They are signs of progress. Every time you make a mistake, you are learning something new.
That's so true. Imagine you're learning to play the guitar. If you make a mistake while practicing, does that mean you should stop playing forever? Of course not. You just keep practicing, and over time, you get better.
Exactly. And the same thing applies to English. The more you speak, the faster you will improve.
So, here's a challenge for our listeners. Stop worrying about mistakes and start speaking today. Even if you just say one sentence out loud, that's progress.
I love that. And coming up next, we'll give you some practical steps to help you start speaking, even if you feel shy or nervous.
All right, now that we understand that speaking is part of learning, let's get into some practical steps that will help you start speaking, even if you feel shy or don't have a speaking partner.
Yes, these are simple, effective, and you can start using them today. So, Jason, what's the first step?
The first step is thinking in English instead of translating. Many learners try to translate every sentence from their native language, and that slows them down. Instead, try to describe things around you in English in your mind.
That's a great tip. For example, if you see a red car, just think that's a red car. Or if you're eating, think I'm having lunch. This soup is delicious.
Exactly. It's a small habit, but it trains your brain to process English faster. So when you speak, the words come more naturally.
That's a great way to start. Another step is speaking to yourself out loud. You don't need a partner to practice speaking. Just talk to yourself about your day, your plans, or even what you see around you.
Yes, you can describe what you're doing, like, now I am making coffee. It smells really good. Or before bed, you can say, today was a great day. I studied English and learned new words.
And if you feel a little silly talking to yourself, don't worry. It's actually a powerful way to build confidence and fluency.
That's right. And here's another tip: use shadowing. Have you heard of this technique, Julia?
Of course, shadowing is when you listen to an English speaker and repeat what they say immediately, copying their pronunciation and rhythm.
Exactly. You can do this with podcasts, movies, or YouTube videos. Just pick a sentence, pause, and repeat it. It helps with pronunciation, speaking speed, and confidence.
That's such an effective technique. And here's another step. Ask yourself questions and answer them in English. It's like having a conversation with yourself.
Great idea. For example, you can ask, "What did I do today?" and answer, "I went to work, had lunch with a friend, and watched a movie."
Yes, or what are my plans for tomorrow? And answer, tomorrow, I will study English for 30 minutes and go for a walk.
This is such a simple way to train your brain to think and respond in English, just like in a real conversation.
And here's one more step: use voice recording. Record yourself speaking in English and listen to it.
That's a fantastic idea. When you listen to your own voice, you can hear your pronunciation and track your progress over time.
So let's summarize these practical steps. 1. Think in English instead of translating. 2. Speak to yourself out loud about your day. 3. Use shadowing to copy native speakers. 4. Ask and answer questions to practice real conversations. 5. Record yourself speaking and track your improvement.
These steps are easy to do, and if you practice them consistently, you'll see real progress in your speaking skills.
Coming up next, we'll talk about how to find speaking opportunities, even if you don't have a language partner.
So far, we've talked about why learners stay silent, the mindset shift they need, and some practical steps to start speaking. But here's a common challenge. What if you don't have anyone to practice with?
That's a great question. Many learners don't have native English speakers around them, but the good news is there are plenty of ways to find speaking opportunities.
Absolutely. Let's start with the first one language exchange apps. Have you ever used apps like Tandem, HelloTalk, or Speaky?
Yes, these apps connect you with real people who want to practice languages. You can chat with native English speakers who are learning your language, so it's a win-win.
That's a fantastic way to practice. And another option is joining online communities. There are Facebook groups, Discord servers, and WhatsApp groups where people practice English together.
Yes, and some groups even organize Zoom calls or live chats where you can practice speaking with other learners.
That's right. But what if someone doesn't feel confident enough to join a live conversation?
Great question. A simple way to start is by leaving voice messages instead of texting. For example, in a language learning group, instead of typing, "Hello, how are you?" try sending a short voice message.
That's a fantastic way to get comfortable. And here's another idea. Find a speaking buddy. If you have a friend or classmate learning English, set up regular calls to practice speaking together.
Yes, even 10 minutes a day of speaking practice can make a huge difference.
And don't forget about local opportunities. If you live in a city with English-speaking tourists or expats, try talking to them in English. Even small conversations, like ordering food or asking for directions, can build confidence.
That's a great idea. And for those who don't have access to native speakers, joining an English club at school or in your community can also be helpful.
Absolutely. Now let's quickly summarize some great ways to find speaking opportunities. 1. Use language exchange apps like Tandem and HelloTalk. 2. Join online English communities on Facebook, WhatsApp, or Discord. 3. Send voice messages instead of texting. 4. Find a speaking buddy and set up regular practice calls. 5. Talk to English-speaking tourists or expats if possible. 6. Join an English club for conversation practice.
If you use just one or two of these methods, you'll start speaking more often and your confidence will grow.
That's right. And next, we'll discuss how to track your speaking progress and stay motivated. Now, let's talk about something really important: overcoming challenges and staying motivated when learning to speak English.
Yes, many learners start practicing but lose confidence when they make mistakes or don't see fast progress.
That's completely normal. But here's the truth. Making mistakes is part of learning. Every fluent speaker was once a beginner who made mistakes.
Absolutely. Instead of feeling embarrassed, see mistakes as a sign of progress. If you're making mistakes, it means you're trying and improving.
That's a great mindset. Another challenge is feeling stuck when you practice a lot, but don't feel like you're improving.
That's frustrating, but it doesn't mean you're not learning. Sometimes progress is happening in the background, you just don't notice it right away.
Yes, a great way to stay motivated is to track your progress. Record yourself speaking today and then compare it after 1 month. You'll be surprised how much you improve.
That's a fantastic tip. And another way to stay motivated is to celebrate small wins. Maybe today you spoke for 3 minutes without stopping. That's progress.
Exactly. Instead of thinking, "I'm not fluent yet," say, "I spoke more today than last week."
And don't forget, learning English should be fun. Watch movies, listen to music, and talk about topics you love. When you enjoy the process, you'll stay motivated.
That's so true. So let's quickly recap 1. Mistakes are part of learning. Don't be afraid of them. 2. If you feel stuck, trust that progress is happening. 3. Record yourself to see improvement over time. 4. Celebrate small wins to stay motivated. 5. Make learning fun. Enjoy the journey.
Exactly. And next, we'll wrap things up with some final words of encouragement and a challenge for our listeners.
All right, we've covered a lot today. Before we go, let's leave our listeners with some final tips.
Yes, my top tip is just start speaking. Don't wait until you feel ready because fluency comes from practice, not perfection.
That's a great one. And my tip is speak every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. Consistency is the key to fluency.
Absolutely. Now, here's a challenge for our listeners today. Record yourself speaking for 1 minute about any topic in English. It can be about your day, your hobbies, or even what you learned from this podcast.
That's a great challenge. And if you found this episode helpful, subscribe to our podcast, share it with a friend, and leave a comment about your biggest takeaway.
Remember, you have the ability to go from silent to fluent. Keep speaking, keep learning, and most importantly, enjoy the journey.
That's right. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.